Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And before I turn to Dr. Wagstrom for a specific question, I think it's worth noting the wondrous system that we have in the United States. I mean, the Morrow Act of 1862, a couple of you are from those institutions. For the first time in the history of the world, with President Lincoln's signature on that act, we made it possible for someone who did not come from wealth or social status to go to college, to have an opportunity in agriculture or mechanics in the sciences, to have a college education. A most amazing accomplishment. And the technology, the training that's come from that. A lot of times some of my idealistic friends here in Congress say, why should we spend public dollars to do anything? Let the private industry do it all. But you produce the scientists who fuel both higher education, research, and the private industry, correct? You're the pipeline that produces the brilliant people who go on to drive that. So that is important, that coalition, that combination, those public resources in producing our next generation scientists. We talk about the animal and health and plant issues, USDA, and sometimes, again, we on the Ag Committee, and I share both that committee assignment and this one, are criticized for the people that we have around the world. But we literally have agents in foreign countries examining plants and animals before they come to the United States. We have people in foreign countries, because agriculture is a free-flowing trade, we have people looking at disease issues there before they can be certified to bring their product into the country. So the investments we make, which are sometimes not so exciting in the eyes of the appropriators and some of our other colleagues, are very necessary. The biggest USDA research facility outside the United States is, what, Montpellier, France? Been there for a century, looking at things that come into the country beforehand. Now, a little more of a particular focus, Dr. Wagstrom. We've talked earlier about foot and mouth, or as my grandfather called it, hoof and mouth, that most amazing, viciously aggressive virus that we've kept out of the country for 88 years, which does still exist in other continents and places around the world. Visit with me for a moment, if you would, a little more in detail about the Homeland Security Presidential Directive number 9 from 2004 about establishing a national policy to defend our agriculture and our food systems, and in particular, the concept of the National Veterinarian Stockpile of Vaccines.
Thank you, Mr. Lucas. We have a very small North American bank, very small. It wouldn't vaccinate all the pigs and cattle around Guyman, Oklahoma. It's that small. What we need is a vaccine bank that will protect us against all 23 strains of foot and mouth disease that are circulating around the world.
And foot and mouth is an example of one of the things we need to be prepared to defend ourselves.
Correct.
One of.
So we not only need a vaccine bank with at least 500 million doses of those 23 strains, we also need a diagnostic laboratory network that has got surge capacity to be able to diagnose not only infected animals, but we have to be able to diagnose that animals are not infected and are safe to move to slaughter or to move to other facilities. We need to have foreign animal disease diagnosticians on the ground and trained to be able to diagnose those animals. Would love to have a pen-side test, but the consequences of having a wrong diagnosis on a potential economic devastation, if we say this animal is infected with foot and mouth disease and it's not, would be devastating. So having a 100% accurate test on a pen-side test is very difficult. So we need, in addition to that as a preliminary screen, we need our diagnostic labs to be able to communicate with our state veterinarians, not only in their state, but also the states surrounding them where animals may move. We need to have seamless information that state veterinarians can look at from the farm through the diagnostic lab into the federal system of data collection so that they can make decisions on if an animal's safe to move, if a quarantine zone needs to be connected. Our system of data collection and transfer from private farms, diagnostic labs, state veterinarians, and federal veterinarians is broken. The U.S. or the National Pork Board is investing almost $1 million with the DHS Center in Texas A&M to try to help put together systems to visualize data that will help us out in an outbreak. That's privately funded. We also need public funding to fix those data systems.
Tolerate me for just a moment, Mr. Chairman. But because agriculture, we produce almost everything everywhere in the country in some quantity. We're not just talking about one central vaccine stockpile. This has to be regionally placed for whatever particular disease we're trying to protect ourselves from, to be available instantaneously. And I assume my other friends over here would note that viruses change subtly, constantly in the wild, so the stockpile has to be adjusted to reflect what's virulent and available out there. It's not a sexy topic, Mr. Chairman, but it would be of critical nature. Would my friends on the panel agree, briefly? I guess they all agree.
We all agree. One thought, just to put it in perspective, there are 1 million pigs a day that are on wheels, moving in a truck somewhere across this country, between about 500,000 cattle on wheels every day. So we don't have the likelihood of having a small outbreak on one farm in a remote area of the country. It's going to be a nationwide outbreak.
I appreciate your indulgence, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, let the